Hi, my name is Hoan Nguyen, and today I'm going to present my final work for the major project of the visual communication course. This presentation includes the project overview, the abstract, the story, the mood board, the color palette, the character and scenes assets, the typeface, the artwork, and the prototype. Well, the audience of this project is the e-reader age 7 to 10, and the project outcome would be an interactive ebook prototype. Well, now we move into the abstract of this project. While the internet-enabled digital technologies have changed human reading habits in recent years, for adults, reading on paper versus on screen makes a huge difference between their perceptions of reading content and subsequently their learning gains. However, children grew up with both digital and print books, so they do not perceive their differences in the same way as adults. Although the popularities of e-readers has rapidly increased lately, especially for young readers, many parents have considered mobile screen device as a less educational platforms compared to computers, televisions, and video games. Therefore, they have aimed to restrict their children access to ebook, while mobile device may become the ultimate digital storytelling device. To be sure, traditional books still predominate, but ebook use is on the rise among some demographic groups, and the project does not suggest to replacing print books with ebooks, but offer another type of reading experience that should be considered in diverse reading choice. Moreover, ebooks may ensure that children from tight budget families or low-income family do not miss out on reading practice. The purpose of the current study was to fill one gap in the research on developing narrative from words to pictures and into 3D designs in ever-growing toolbox, and finally prototyping a mobile-based website for mobile phone. The study findings provide new thinking for publishers and designers of ebooks. Well, we're moving on to the story of this project. I have found this story, The Red Hill by Daniel Rickles, on the internet, and it attracts my attention at the very first time that I read this story, because it is really simple and attractive, and is have conveyed an educational and motivations idea for children. Well, I'm gonna read through the story, The Red Hills. Before times were time, there was a red hill, and on the red hills there lived the Yorks. The Yorks spent their entire lives climbing the red hills, trying to reach the top. Some Yorks climb fast, some Yorks climb slowly, and one York in particular was a very, very slow climber. He was different than the rest of the York, and when he climbed, on the other Yorks passed him. It was hard for him to watch them pass by. He felt like the worst climbers in the world. Some Yorks made fun of him as they passed, or didn't. Some Yorks wanted to help him, but he didn't let them. It was hard for him to climb. It was even harder when it rained, because the route got slippery. Sometimes it seemed like it were only raining on him, but it wasn't. There were times when he felt like he wasn't moving at all, but he was. Then one day he met another York who climbed even slower than he did. He helped the slower York climb. "Thank you," said the slower York. "You're welcome," said the slow York. "I can't be much help to anyone else since I climb so slowly." "Slowly?" asked the slower York. "Well, yes, I watched other York pass me all the time. I do not know if you are slow or fast, but I do know that you helped me and that you are still climbing." The slow York said goodbye to the slower York and kept climbing. Still climbing, he talked to himself. "That is true," and he smiled. So the York kept climbing. He climbed when it was night out, and he climbed when it rained, and he even climbed when it snowed. As he kept climbing, he got better and better. Sometimes he could pass other York, and sometimes they would pass him. He had stopped paying attention. He also noticed that some York were no longer climbing. When a York stopped climbing, it stayed where it is. Some York stop climbing because they are happy with how far they have gone. Other York stop climbing because they don't want to climb anymore. The York has stopped climbing did not like to be passed, and they make it harder to get by, but the York kept climbing right over them. There were still times when the York thought he was climbing an impossible hill, but he kept climbing, always climbing. Do you think he made the top? Well, the story of Daniel Rickles ends with the questions open to like an idea for the children to think of. And for the printed book, I think this is a very good, very, very good ending, but it should be something more on the digital versions that. And I have asked the authors of this story on Twitter, but he didn't reply. I asked him about that, about my project of his story, and I was doing the 3D version, the 3D digital versions of his story, and asked him if it were right. Asked him if it's okay if I put like some more additional ideas in the end of the story, but he didn't reply, so I did what I think was right. So we're moving on to the mood board of this project. As this project is creating the digital storytelling ebooks for the children age 7 to 10. So I have found like some similar idea of the story, that the character would be round and chubby and with right color designs, and the environment have the right colors design too. And for the color palette of this project, as I have picked up it in the mood board, I have chose the fresh organic palette for this project because the story brings a motivated and optimistic message to the children. Therefore, this palette pairs different shades and tones with other natural bright colors, namely blue, yellow, brown, violet, red, and pink. And the two photos on the right corners were the covers and the end pictures of the digital versions of the story that I made. Now we move into the characters and scene assets of the project. After investigating the story, I have divided characters in the story into 4 types of characters. That is the protagonist, the psychic, the foils, and the background characters. To explain why I used mushroom ideas to as an inspiration for my 2D for my character design, it is the original illustrations of the story were the yolk was a rock, and for the digital version, I want to make something different. Like I want to add more personality to the characters, and I want the character looks like more childish and more adorable to the audience. So, and after many research and sketch and trying, and so the final designs of the protagonist would use the mushroom inspiration for his look, and for the colors of the protagonist, the pink ivory cheeks and face make him look healthy and youthful, while the blue cap represents for his calmness and harmony and trust, and the white overall brings him glorified personality and positive energy to the character. This is the design, the 3D designs of the protagonist. In the 2D designs, I made him a look slimmer, but for the 3D design, I have made him a little bit more chubby to make his cuter in shape, because and make him a little more adorable and more childish in his look. And moving on to the psychic design. The psychic design keeps the same idea with the protagonist. For the final designs of the psychic was the were the friends were the slower York who helped the main character to understand more about himself, about the motivations. So for the psychic design, I keep the white overall and the brown mushroom cap with yellow spot on it. The white overall make his look matches with the protagonist, and his brown cap associated with his mature, honest personality, and the yellow spot bring positive energy to the characters. This is the 3D designs of the psychic. For the 3D design, I makes him like a slimmer bit, because in the 2D designs he's a little bit fatter at the neck, but it is unrealistic to do that in the 3D software, namely Blender, and it will make the character hard to move and to change poses in the later stage. So I make him a little slimmer at the neck, but in general he still look chubby and really childish. This is the foil. For the foil, this is not 100% a villain. He just passed by and tease or bully the main character a bit. So the idea with of how he looks, he has energies and personality. So I have choose the purple and violet cap, and for the cap and the colors. Yeah. So for the 3D design of the foil, I have changed his face a bit, so he look a little bit mean, that which match to his personality in the story. And the final character is the background character. This character adds no meanings to the story, and his look is inspired by the foil. He had the same white tone body shape with the colors, and he has smaller cap with the reverse directions. He also have the bright yellow cap, which brings him a fresh, young and natural looks, which also bring the positive energy to the story. Positive energies. That is what I want to put in the entire story, in the entire digital version of the story. This is his final 3D design. I have made his cap a little bit larger than the 2D design, because in the 3D design, if I make the cap smaller a bit, the character will lose the balance, because he is tall, but the cap is too little. So in general, he would look better with the larger cap. And this is the four characters stand together in the world in their environment, with the tree assets and the bushes, the flowers and the leaf behind the scene. And this is an additional details that I put into the story, as I don't want to end the story with the questions. So I made like a happy ending for the protagonist, for the main character. So I have created a York house, a happy house for the Yorks on the top of the red hills. We moving on to the typeface of the project. I have chosen the black purple font for the titles, for the covers of the digital version of the story. The black purple font is a big round font that is perfect for adding a little fun, a little positive energy to the headline, which meant to be for the story. And for the paragraph, I have chosen the item font, which is a new type plus Latin handwriting typeface. It has an informal loop with the semi-serif designs, so it look like a handwriting, which add more like natural feeling to the whole look of the whole visual of the product. But it's still readable. It's still easy for the kids and the audience to read. So it's perfect for the body paragraph of this project. We move into the artwork of this project. Right now, I have rendered punches of images to prototype the story in Figma. So this is the flow of the prototype. So the very beginning of the story will appears like in with the views of a lot of clouds to cover the whole hills, and then it would be appear the instruction how to use the how to read the story on the website. Just tap to the right to move forward and tap to the left to move backward. And this is very easy user experience for the children. Moving to the next scenes, the clouds disappear mostly to reveal the a little bit of the red hills, but there's still some clouds at the bottom of the scenes. But moving to the other scenes, the the following scenes on the cloud disappear to the size of the scenes, and it were animated in Photoshop because at my stage of knowledge of the blenders, I was enabled to do it and at the limited time resource of the project. And so this is the scenes that introduce the story protagonist. He was appear at the bottoms of the hills. And this is the time he met the foil. He was a little bit upset, and then he turned his face around to the audience to show them that he was a little bit upset and he was sad. But he kept moving forward, even it was raining or even it is snowing. For the second images, I have done the raining effect in the Photoshop, and I have attached the GIF files in the assessment, so you can have a look on it. So this is what I added in the stories, the decision making interactivity for the audience. So the question, should he help the slower York, wasn't in the story of Daniel Errico, but I added it in my digital versions to attract the children, the audience, to changing, to understand that every decisions have their result, the different result, and if their choice is not right, they can choose again. And then if the audience tap to the choose again, to choose again box, it will bring them back to the questions. Should he help the slower York? And if they hit yes, the flow will directly bring them to the another scenes that the protagonist help the psychic, and then the psychic thanks the protagonist, and he have given the protagonist an advice and motivation to his journey to the top of the Red Hill. This is the moment that the protagonist understands that he should keep climbing, and he should keep climbing whether how the weather is and whether how hard it is to reach the top of the hill. And for these scenes, I have repeated at the reverse scenes, and he has keep climbing. And for the for the second images, I have put some more effect of the snowing and the raining in Photoshop, and I also have attached these GIF files in the assessment. So this is when the York stopped and he paying attention of of his surrounding environment. So I have put some more some more York that stop climbing around the protagonist. This scene transition make the protagonist moving forward on his way to the top of the hills, and this should be the how can I say it? This should be the end of the story of Daniel Ericles in the printed versions. But as I said before, I want to add more like values to the end of the story, so I have made a little bit so I have made a decision making interactivity at these scenes. So just like the previous decision making activity, this activity will allow the audience to choose between yes and no. If the audience choose no, then the scene is gonna be changed to the protagonist is gonna be turned into the mushroom and stay where he is, like the order York. But the audience can always choose, so they can choose again. And if the audience choose yes, and the happy ending result will appears with the York and his friends on the top of the hills in front of their big mushroom house, which is happy endings for the York, the main characters, on all of his friends. And this is the prototype state of the project. As the audience of this project is children from age 7 to 10, so the UI and the UX should be simple and easy to use for the target audience. So this is the prototype videos that I've made in the Figma. I also attach the videos in the assessment, or you can go to the link in the FinalWork PDF to go to the Figma my Figma page, so you can see and you can experience the prototype. So I will play the my prototype of this project. That is how the cloud disappeared to the size of the scenes. So I have used a very simple transition for the text to keep the simple attitude for the whole project. I have made these scenes in Photoshop with the animation tools. This is where decision making activity is. So we can choose again, and if the audience hit yes, it will change to another scenes. For these scenes, I have added some snows animation to these scenes, and then this is the animations that I have mentioned before. Is make the protagonist looks like he moving forward with the animation, but it's just pictures, it's just images. This is the ends of the I chose it again. This is the end of the digital versions of the Red Hill by Daniel Ericles and visual by Hoan Nguyen. Thank you for your listening.